But first, we begin with the death of former Bay Area Congressmember Pete McCloskey.
He represented parts of the South Bay and Peninsula as a Republican member of the House for more than 15 years. ABC 7 News anchor Dan Ashley looks back at the life and career of Pete McCloskey.
Friends say Bay Area Representative Pete McCloskey never stopped leading the charge. A journey that transformed him from war hero to peace activist and environmental champion. Born in Southern California, McCloskey graduated from Stanford and Stanford Law School. He served in the Marine Corps during the Korean War, where he was awarded the Navy Cross and Silver Star and celebrated for leading a series of bayonet charges. He remembered the battle with humility during an interview with ABC 7 News.
Well, I got wounded twice. I had the ridge lines were so narrow that you couldn't say, "Sergeant, take the hill." Yes, I had to say, "Follow me," because you could only get one guy on the hill.
But later, as Vietnam unfolded, McCloskey turned against the war.
It's in San Mateo County that the candidates will meet to fight out an election for an empty Congress seat.
Elected to Congress as a Republican in 1967, he eventually ran for president, trying to unseat Richard Nixon, and participated in anti-war demonstrations.
There are two ways to end this war. One is to persuade the President of the United States to stop the bombing forthwith and to withdraw our troops from Vietnam immediately. The other is to persuade 218 members of the House of Representatives or 51 senators to vote to cut the money off of this war this year.
When McCloskey came out against the war in Vietnam as a Marine war hero, it was a big deal.
Activist and filmmaker Robert Coughlin was a lifelong friend. In his film Leading from the Front, Coughlin documents McCloskey's sometimes controversial stance, from criticism of Israel as a lecturer at Stanford to support for free speech. The pair also teamed up on environmental battles, including access to a popular beach along the San Mateo County coast. He believes McCloskey, who helped create the annual Earth Day celebration, may be best remembered for his courage and maverick personality.
I think that he was a hero for the environment, a hero for peace, and a hero in war. He led a truly heroic life.
Dan Ashley, ABC 7 News.
Joining us now is former Bay Area Congressmember Jackie Speier. Jackie, thanks so much for your time. Pete McCloskey was 96 years old, lived such a rich life, and we understand you have a really sweet picture that was taken last week.
Yes, the picture was taken of himself and his wife Helen and shared with me. And I don't know if you're going to be able to bring it up on your screen, but it's a beautiful depiction of a true love that they enjoyed for many, many decades. And I had the privilege of visiting him about a month ago, and he was still full of piss and vinegar. He still was full of clarity about the democracy that we are quickly losing, and someone who was passionate about his love for this country and for a Congress that responds to its people. He was a moral compass, as you have depicted in your references to him, fighting the Vietnam War, going after Nixon to bring that war to a close, being the environmentalist in the 70s with the Endangered Species Act, creating Earth Day when it was not necessarily first and foremost in people's minds. So he was an incredible mentor to me. He lived his life with gusto and never lost sight of how important it was to protect the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. And as a war hero, he had Purple Hearts. And correct me if I'm wrong, but he gave one of them to you?
Actually, I have it here. This is one of my prized possessions, having served in Congress. I don't know if you can see this, but
yeah.
He presented this to me midway through my career. And he said he wanted me to have one of his Purple Hearts because he said there was no equivalent medal for civilians who have served and been wounded. And he thought this was one way of rectifying it. So it's a treasure that was hung in my office in Congress, and I will hang it again. So he's always going to be with me.
Yeah, treasured memory for sure. You know, we use the term war hero. Pete McCloskey really fits the description. He led, and we heard it in the piece, 6 bayonet charges in the Korean War. That's something he was obviously extremely proud of.
And yet he became anti-war through the Vietnam War. He recognized that it was a quagmire, that we should get out of it. But he was a true American hero who believed in his country, who fought for his country, not just on the battlefield, but in Congress. And even after he left Congress, writing letters to the editor and columns in newspapers, kind of making sure that we were aware that all is not right. And he really depicts, I think, what's the best that America has to offer in leadership.
Finally, what do you think is the lasting legacy that he leaves to future generations and perhaps future public servants?
Well, I think the legacy is that you do what's right, even when it's unpopular. You stand your ground. And he did all of those things. He lost elections because he stood his ground. And yet he never was embittered. He continued to fight for this democracy and loved this country. And I think he will go down in history, certainly in the Bay Area, as one of the finest leaders we ever had.
Former Congresswoman Jackie Speier, thank you so much.
Thank you.